no one disagrees that the discovery of the tomb of the Egyptian pharaoh Tutankhamun in 1922 is the discovery of the 20th century, and that the Englishman Howard Carter became a global star after this discovery that confused the world. But what about the other side of the English discoverer? In 2010, the German magazine Der Spiegel described Howard Carter as a deceiver, liar, thief and smuggler of antiquities. A report published by the magazine at the time revealed that Carter had documented photos of Tutankhamun's tomb discovered in 1922, but he distorted it, claiming that the tomb had been stolen by thieves before its discovery, with the aim of deceiving the Egyptian Antiquities Authority. The magazine's report was based on reports of Carter's assistants in the excavation work, such as Alfred Lucas and Lord Carnarvon, who accuse the first of finding Tutankhamun's tomb 6 months before its official discovery, and that he visited the tomb before announcing its discovery in secret, then restored and hid the parts that were broken in the tomb in order to enter it. He added that Carter's intention was to keep half of the contents of the cemetery from the excavation team's share to make it look as if it had been stolen before, and when the decision on this matter finally ended in not dividing the cemetery's possessions and keeping them completely in Egypt, Carter stole a large number of her holdings, of which there are 20 today inside the Metropolitan Museum in New York City, USA alone, while the rest are located in London, Paris, Kansas City, and Germany. The report stated that one of the heads of the German State Museum of Saxony, who refused to be named, admitted that he possesses blue artifacts belonging to the cemetery, which Carter hid during the cemetery cleaning operations before he later gifted it to a female secretarial worker. The report indicated that 2 German Egyptian archaeologists denied Carter's perceptions, and considered that his allegations of the theft of the tomb as a prior deception, in addition to the footprints, with which Carter had previously proven his claims that the tomb was stolen. It became possible, according to one of the German archaeologists, that Carter himself, a butcher, tore the mummy of the little king apart. When Carter found the mummified body of the king with the golden mask on, he summoned Dr. Douglas Derry, known as the Butcher, who cut the king's body into pieces. Advertisement. Ads by Dr. Zahi Hawass, an Egyptian archaeologist, tells in his book Tutankhamun the story of dismembering the king's body, as the process of examining the mummy for the first time came 3 full years after the discovery of the tomb, specifically on November 10, 1925, and it was not an examination in the conventional sense. It is currently on it, but the main purpose is to try to extract the mummy from the sarcophagus, and Carter and his team started their work. So at first they tried to lift the inner sarcophagus cover for the first time, and it was a surprise, as the king's head appeared in front of them, completely gilded, hidden behind the golden mask, and even attached to it, and the mummy was attached also with the coffin, and Carter preferred at the time that it was better to remove the coffin from the cemetery and place it in the sun, in the belief that the resin was a resinous substance used by the ancient Egyptians, which might dissolve and separate the mummy from the coffin. But the paraffin wax that the embalmers poured on the linen rolls led to its adhesion to the mummy, which led to Douglas Derry cutting the linen rolls and removing the mummy from the coffin. Carter and his team cut off the head from the neck and used a hot knife to extract the skull from the mask and separated the body parts from each other and placed them with each other again with resin. And Carter did not mention in his memoirs or books that he cut the mummy, but as a result of the examination of the mummy, this was discovered. In the same context, Bassem al-Shamah, a researcher in Egyptology, explained, in previous statements to the Middle East News Agency, that the mummy of Tutankhamun was corrupted by Dr. Douglas Derry, the butcher doctor. Derry participated with Carter in smashing, cutting, and amputating parts of the mummy to separate it from the body. coffins and linen rolls, and that they cut the mummy into more than 15 separate pieces, indicating that Derry used heated knives to separate the mummy's head from the funerary golden mask, which prompted the specialized photographer Burton to put white cotton at the bottom of the mummy's neck in order to cover the effects of separating the neck and head from the body so that it does not appear in the picture, and in another picture. We notice that it is possible that the neck area has been darkened to cover the separation of the head from the body. Over the decades, several accounts have circulated accusing Howard Carter, the archaeologist who discovered Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, of stealing treasures from the tomb, but proving these accounts has been difficult. In conjunction with the centenary of the discovery of the most famous cemetery in the world, these days new evidence has emerged proving that Carter stole the belongings of the young king Tutankhamun, and collected treasures from them before the official opening, according to the British newspaper The Guardian. The newspaper revealed a previously unpublished letter sent to him by a prominent British scientist on his excavation team in 1934, in which it appeared that Carter had undoubtedly stolen property from the tomb. The newspaper said that Sir Alan Gardiner, a leading philologist whom Carter had entrusted with the task of translating the hieroglyphic words found inside the 3,300-year-old tomb, later gave him an amulet used to make offerings to the dead, assuring him that it did not come from the tomb. Gardiner showed the amulet to Rex Engelbach, then British director of the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, and was dismayed when Engelbach told him it had indeed come from the tomb because it matched other models, all made from the same mold. Gardiner sent a letter to Carter, enclosing Engelbach's opinion, saying, "The amulet you showed me was undoubtedly stolen from the tomb of Tutankhamun." Gardiner told Carter, "I am deeply sorry that I have been put in a very embarrassing position. But," he added, "of course I didn't tell Engelbach that I got the amulet from you." The Guardian explained that the letters, which are now in a private collection, will be published in a book to be published soon by Oxford University Press, under the title Tutankhamun and the Tomb That Changed the World. Its author, Bob Breyer, a distinguished Egyptologist at Long Island University, told the Observer newspaper that suspicions that Carter got himself the treasures had long circulated, but now there is no doubt about it. He continued, "He certainly never admitted it. We don't have any official denials. But the Egyptian government locked him out of the grave for some time. There was a lot of bad vibes, and they thought he was stealing things." Breer added, "It is suspected that they broke into the tomb before the official opening, and took the artifacts, including jewelry, which were sold after their deaths." It was previously known that Carter had items from the tomb in some way, but these letters are now definitive evidence. He wrote in his book that the Egyptians were unable to prove their suspicions and were convinced, for example, that Carter was planning to steal a wooden head of Tutankhamun found in his possession, noting that at that time the Egyptian authorities entered and searched Section No. 4 in the tomb, which Carter and the team used to store antiquities. And they discovered a beautiful, real-size wooden head of Tutankhamun when he was a young man. He went on, "It was packed in the Fortnum and Mason chest but is never mentioned in Carter's records of the finds, nor in the volume describing the contents of the entry room." And Carter argued that it was simply discovered among the ruins in the descending passage. Later, we find pieces of his property in the Egyptian antiquities market that clearly came from the tomb, Breyer said. Some Egyptologists have questioned Carter's claim that the tomb's treasures were looted in ancient times. And in 1947, in a scientific journal in Cairo, Alfred Lucas, one of Carter's employees, reported that Carter secretly opened the door to the burial chamber himself, before going out to close it and cover the opening. And some have entered museums, including the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, which announced in 2010 that it would send to Egypt 19 pieces acquired between the 1920s and 1940s because they can be attributed with certainty to the tomb of Tutankhamun, according to the British newspaper. In his 1992 book on Carter, the late Harry James referenced Carter's letters at the University of Oxford's Griffith Institute, which refer to a quarrel with Gardiner that led to the return of the amulet to Cairo. The Guardian reported that the significance of the previously unpublished correspondence lies in the fact that the accusation came from a leading expert who was already involved in the first excavation.